I am one big step closer to answering the most important question of life. If a genie showed up and said you get one wish, but it has to be for Classic Plus, what would you ask for? And for me, I didn't figure it out by playing Classic WoW, not Turtle WoW, not the TBC pre-patch, not even retail. Not an MMO at all. I found the answer while playing Fallout New Vegas. Well, some of the answer. This is the second video in a series where I look at single-player RPGs and ask one simple question. What could Classic Plus steal from this game? The first episode was about Dark Souls 1. Make sure to check it out after this if that sounds interesting to you. And while I liked the ideas I got from Dark Souls 1, the things I would steal from New Vegas are even better. Because Fallout New Vegas is an incredible RPG, and it turns out a lot of what made it great could be added to Classic Plus to make it the best MMORPG ever, at least in my opinion. I will save the best for last, but we're still gonna start strong. If you've never played Fallout New Vegas, one of its strongest features are its factions. There are a lot of them, big and small, they're very well written, they fit into the world, and most importantly, the way you interact with them actually matters. Being hated or idolized by a faction actually matters in New Vegas. It changes how you move through the world, which quests you can get, what loot you can access, how the story unfolds, and even how other factions treat you, because factions interact with each other, and you cannot please everyone. Vanilla World of Warcraft technically has the same reputation, scale, from hated to exalted, but in practice, you're barely allowed to mess with it, and that is such a shame because all these cool and interesting groups of characters that exist around Azeroth should be more important. Lowering reputation is usually pointless and often impossible, and even when you raise it, not much changes. Best case scenario, some previously hostile mobs turn friendly now, but usually it's all about raid attunements and access to some recipes. I'm not saying Classic Plus should go all the way like New Vegas. I'm not saying let a human casually burn their Stormwind reputation to the ground. That would be a nightmare to design and even worse to play. Big factions like that cannot work that way in an MMO. But not all factions are Stormwind or Ogrimmar sized. Classic already has smaller groups, and Classic Plus should and will probably add more anyway. Those are perfect for meaningful choices and dynamic impact. They should give you freedom, they should present trade-offs and consequences that go deeper than now I can buy this enchant. Factions should affect each other. That's how a world feels real. Take the Venture Company for example. Greedy goblins, pollution, exploitation. It's objectively awful. But why couldn't a human or an orc or a troll or anyone that is not a druid be into that? Profit is profit, time is money, friend, and let's not pretend that either the Horde or the Alliance are moral paragons and their members would never do anything like that. So let the Venture Company be a real faction. At some point, the opportunity to work with them arises. If you take it, their members stop attacking you. You can still do the original Kill Venture Co quests for the original rewards, but those will lower your reputation very fast. You can still rebuild the reputation though, by bribing them, delivering materials, or doing quests for them that usually revolve around them getting more stuff. So what do you get from this? Well, it could open up a new quest hub, a new city, vendors, flight paths, maybe later even a mount, maybe even a dungeon locked behind the Venture Co reputation. Vanilla already has a lot of locked content. Horde players will never be able to get into the stockades. I'm not saying they are missing on anything, but they cannot. And while they can technically come and clear the dead mines, they miss on some incredible quest lines and quest rewards. And it's also so much harder for them to get there in the first place. So having one or two new dungeons that are locked for certain groups of people is not weird at all for Vanilla World of Warcraft. And having it be locked because of role-playing choices is the way to do it. And it's also how the current game does it. Choosing a faction, the Horde or the Alliance, is an RPG element, and that choice will lock you out of a bunch of quests, entire zones, and some dungeons as well. But there must be a trade-off. Booty Bay will not like this. They do not like the Venture Company, not because they care about the environment, but it just interferes with their profits. So for hanging out with a venture company, their vendors will charge you extra. Maybe you pay a small fee just to enter the city. Maybe the boat to Ratchet costs a few silver pieces for you. They would try to just kill you, but staying neutral between the Horde and the Alliance is more profitable overall than dealing with one person helping another cartel. So nothing game breaking, just friction that makes your choice feel real. Now let's add a second faction. Let's say Deta from Wrath of the Lich King makes an appearance in Classic. Nature-focused, anti-exploitation, all about protecting nature. You side with them, you're locked out of the venture company because, of course, these two factions clearly hate each other. You get different quests, different routes, different rewards. Booty Bay doesn't hate you anymore, but maybe the Deta vendors have a bit less flashy things for sale since the faction is not so profit-oriented, but you also get access to different content. Another dungeon, another mount once you are revealed and you have a bunch of gold to spend. Yes, people will always pick whatever gives the best rewards for their spec. Many of them. That's inevitable. But if this mostly exists in the middle of the leveling process, the pressure to min-max is way lower. Most players in this case will actually just go with the faction they like, and it actually changes how they play. And once you do this with more than just two factions, the world starts feeling way more dynamic and new. It also makes alts way more interesting to level. You're not just replaying the same path with a different class. You're making different choices, different decisions, and seeing different outcomes, actually seeing different content, other dungeons, rewards, other pieces of lore. But at the end of the day, this is an MMO, not a single player RPG, so relative power still matters. For any of this to make sense, it has to stay part of the leveling experience and not be tied to best in slot item lists. But leveling is such a massive part of vanilla that making it more customizable, more replayable, adding more real choices, real consequences and more RPG depth would make Classic Plus a lot better for a lot of people because, let's be real, how many vanilla fans love the game because of everything that happens at 60 and they just hate everything before that. And speaking of the way you play the game actually changing things, in Fallout, not just in New Vegas but the entire series, your build goes beyond combat. Who you are changes how the game treats you. Low intelligence playthroughs are so interesting because at every step the world reacts. Everyone is at least a little bit surprised to see an absolute baboon like yourself making it more than 5 minutes.
I'm happy you cleared that up for me, but we've got another situation to worry about. There's a merchant hanging around near the prison. Something feels funny about him and I want you to deal with him. Shake him down if he's legit, but if not, take him out.
I don't get it. What's funny about a merchant?
Not haha funny, you moron.
World of Warcraft doesn't have stat distribution like that.
Subbrick.
But it has other systems. Talents, professions, reputations, classes. We already have class quests. So why stop there? Why limit this kind of reactivity just to one quest per class? It doesn't have to be something insane. Say you fully spec into Shadow as a priest. People could react to that. Early on, some of them warn you about losing yourself to the Shadow. When you reach Shadow form, that dialogue changes to something like, very few people master this power. And I'm not sure any should. Maybe certain quest chains only appear if you've gone that deep into the Shadow tree. Nothing mandatory, nothing with insane rewards, just flavor, lore and, of course, XP. A quest that is not available to any priest, but to shadow priests. Not to all hunters, but only the most skilled marksmen. Not any kind of warlock, but one that is a master in controlling the demons from the twisting nether. You get the idea. Professions could do the same thing. Not constantly, but often enough to matter. And not just new quests entirely, but the possibility of any quest playing differently. Imagine a Kobold cave quest. You can fight your way through like always. Or if jewel crafting exists in Classic Plus, which it should, you can craft some useless but extremely shiny gems that distract the kobolds long enough to slip past them. Or a quest where you must destroy some robots. You can brute force them like always, or if you are a skilled engineer who can also stealth in some way, be that as a rogue or a druid, or by using an invisibility potion, you can trigger an auto-destruct protocol instead. Or in a dungeon, an enemy usually flees away and escapes when he realizes that you and your group made it all the way to him, a scripted event. But if someone in your group is a good tailor, they can repair the uniforms from fallen enemies you encountered before, then you disguise the party in those uniforms just enough to fool that person not to run away, stopping him unlocking an optional boss. Or in another dungeon, there is an escort quest. The NPC you escort mentions how his armor and weapons are broken and useless, and he is vulnerable and will not be able to help. But maybe you have a blacksmith that could repair his armor and weapons a bit, making him much more resistant and also dealing DPS, also making the final reward from his quest a bit better for everyone for the extra effort. Even previous choices could matter. Take the venture company again. Say you are honored with them because you did their quests in their dungeon. They do a lot of digging, right? They're constantly dealing with caves and the problems that come with that. So maybe you can buy a device from them, something that vibrates in such a way in tight spaces that it messes with insects. They use it to dig in places like Silitus to make it a bit less dangerous. You can buy that and use it as well, and the tunnels below Silitus, for example, become a bit less dangerous for you as well, because the insects are like 5 or 10% more likely to miss when attacking you. You get the idea. Who you are and what you're good at should matter more inside of combat, but also outside of it. The world should present moments to you where you go, oh, the world remembered this actually mattered. Leveling in Classic is already great, but systems like this would make it way more interesting without breaking what already works, because a big part of adding content to Classic Plus in a way that works perfectly is to make it optional. So those who want their nostalgia trip at some point, or those who don't like that certain addition, can just ignore it, and the others can enjoy it without anyone being punished for it. And finally, the big one. The thing that for me would take Classic WoW to a whole new level. Adding Fallout's New Vegas hardcore mode to Classic WoW's hardcore mode. Okay, look, I know none of these ideas I present in these videos will probably ever be implemented, and I'm fully aware no Classic WoW dev is watching this, probably, and even if they were, this one would be so ambitious that even if the whole team would see this and like this, they wouldn't do it. I also expect not many of you to like this one or maybe find it too drastic. So for this, it really is just me thinking as if I really had a genie granting Classic Plus wishes, okay? So let me explain to you some of the things that the hardcore mode in Fallout New Vegas will do. Food and water do not just give you a small heal over time effect, but you actually need them to survive, to not starve or become dehydrated. You also need to sleep. And even before you die, depending on how hungry or dehydrated or tired you are, there will be a debuff because of that. Sleeping does not heal you. Broken limbs require certain items to be healed or visiting a doctor. The equivalent of a health potion does not instantly heal you anymore, but does it over a short period of time. Same goes for items that deal with your radiation level. Ammunition has weight, so you do not want to hoard too many bullets or grenades or anything like that. You get the idea. It's not like hardcore in Classic WoW. You can die and you can resurrect, but everything else is more realistic. I actually finished Fallout New Vegas in this mode without ever dying too, and it was one of the most fun things I have ever done with my pants on. Classic Hardcore makes Classic so much more immersive. New Vegas Hardcore makes New Vegas so much more immersive. Now, why not combine those two? I would love one, maybe two, but even just one realm where the rules are different for hardcore WoW. The normal hardcore rules apply, but on top of those, some extra changes are added that make the game easier, but most that obviously make it harder. So, first of all, of course, as I said, food actually matters as well as water. You need both to avoid hunger and dehydration. And the normal well-fed buff, you get that only if you're not already hungry or dehydrated, because eating one single meal cannot give you a well-fed buff if that is the first thing you ate in 48 hours. You also need to sleep, let's say at least 6 hours per day, offline or online, inside of an inn or in a tent. Tents would work like on Turtle WoW, crafted through the new survival profession, and they let you sleep and gain rested XP anywhere. If you don't do this, you get a debuff, and if you don't do this for a long time, like staying online for a week and never logging off, you will die. That will probably not happen, but you know. But if you are properly rested, you get a small bonus, something like 5% to all stats that slowly fades away over an hour or two. Bleeds, poisons and diseases would also hit harder and last longer, because it's honestly weird that a disease just disappears in 20 seconds, or that a wolf bleeds you and after 20 seconds that also goes away. Instead, these effects last much longer, maybe an hour or two, but they become weaker over time. A bleed might last an hour, taking less and less damage over time, but multiple bleeds obviously stack, just like in real life. Same idea for poisons and diseases. You can still deal with all of this the same way you did before, but you now actually have to care, and there are some extra ways to deal with it as well, of course. Because I've always disliked how irrelevant this stuff is in Classic. First aid already lets you treat poisons, but almost nobody uses it, because you don't need to. I got 4 different characters to 60 in hardcore, almost 5 now, and I only maxed first aid on the first one. That's a problem, because first aid should be a real survival profession that you need in hardcore, not a checkbox. So all current ways to remove these effects still exist, but bandages do what they already do, for example, but they also deal with bleeds. Poisons are so much more dangerous, so you require anti-venom. Diseases are more complex. Herbalists can craft disease-curing items. They can also be traded. Some NPCs sell them, some quests reward them, and some mobs drop them when it makes sense. For example, the trolls in Stranglethorn Vale. They live in a jungle, so they probably carry some jungle remedies from time to time. Another big one. Potions do not heal you instantly. They work over time, maybe over 5 seconds. Same for elixirs or any other consumable. Because even in a fantasy setting, that just feels more believable. It takes a bit of time until the potion does what it's supposed to do, and it completely changes combat pacing. And finally, zones themselves matter. Elwyn Forest is safe, nothing special happens there, but Tanaris, for example, the heat will affect you. You dehydrate faster, your stats will drop slightly, your fire resistance goes down, and movement is a bit slower because of all of this. Not deadly, but hostile. The cold in Winter Spring will lower your frost resistance and drain you the same way. Fellwood's toxins reduce your nature resistance. Same idea for Silithus, the Plaguelands, the Shimmering Flats, any place where an environmental hazard is clearly present one way or another. Yes, this sucks, but once again, there are ways to deal with it. Blacksmiths can craft thermal stones that emit or absorb heat. Survivalists can make protective gear. Herbalists brew potions. Engineers build devices that regulate the temperature around you and deal with other poisonous hazards when you have them in your inventory. And the last part, my favorite one actually, addiction. In New Vegas, buff items are very powerful, but there is a small chance you get addicted to them, so you gotta be careful when you use them. In WoW, you can spam consumables forever with 0 downsides, which makes no sense. All of these things are made from strange plants and chemicals. Addiction should be rare but possible. Say you get addicted to Troll's Blood elixirs. While the effect is active, you are fine. After it fades, you are fine for a while, but if you go too long without another dose, your stats drop, your vision becomes blurry, things feel off. You can cure it by visiting special medics or using specific medicines crafted by alchemists. Tiny chance to happen, but when it does, it could be so fun and would create such interesting moments. Imagine being self-found and becoming addicted to something, needing to just roam the world to gather plants to sustain your addiction until you can see a medic. And if you are addicted, there should be a quest line that's just about dumb funny people who are drunk and doing drugs and doing all kinds of stupid shit around Azeroth. So there's an upside for that too. In my opinion, all of this makes the world more dangerous, more immersive, and more alive. It slows the game down in a good way. It makes professions matter all the time. It forces cooperation. It gives real weight to who your character is and what they are good at and where they need help beyond just your role in a 5-man dungeon and beyond just your spec. It wouldn't be for everyone, which is why I'd want 1 or maybe 2 separate realms for this. But this more old school approach would appeal to some players, including me. And there's another big upside for Blizzard. This would be a content machine. Streamers would love it, YouTubers would love it, so many videos, so many guides, so much content. It would get people talking about the game, which is gold for an MMORPG. I would love all of this, But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you so much if you watched all the way through, and if you liked the video, please don't forget to subscribe and to like the video and maybe share it with your friends. More videos like this are coming, so anyway, till next time, peace.